So then we are back with more understandings from the time of the Second Tabernacle services, where we find then the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Israelic lineage, from the second son of Ibrahim. Then we can understand tabernacling and its returning. And then regarding the time of the end, also per then the prophet Daniel, the statesperson Daniel, the politician Daniel, the astronomer Daniel, explaining the time of the end as per then the image of the statue, then related in the second chapter, and making a layer with the 12th chapter and also with Galah, the 20th chapter. So as we read then in the scripture, not precept upon precept and line upon line, layer upon layer of understanding. You have to read then the second chapter. There is a layer over there related with the 12th chapter. There is a layer there. And then Galah, so layer upon layer, we understand what comes in the future. So then as far as the government is concerned, it was explained many times regarding then the Chinese system coming very strongly. There were many areas of influence of then the Chinese in terms of the house bust, mortgage bust in 2008, then Citigroup and Bank of China linking up. Then there was explained situation regarding the SWIFT company from China, specialized in internet transactions. There is another Pearl Harbor coming, and then the radar. The radar is indicating where we find the radar. In quote, you find in the scripture indicating the prophet Daniel explaining of sections of tabernacle, explaining sections of Gentile world. There is a system coming and our country is not prepared for it. And lots of jargon going on in the government, in sequestration. It gives the very bad understanding of government is always trying to find these jargon words where they can play with it for a month or two until something else pops up. Then they come up with another word to make themselves a novel as they go along with it. And then we read these ridiculous reports. For instance, then Department of Security stating, oh, there are delays because of sequestration. It's the same old jargon crap of the old times. Speaking of the time of deceit. The same old junk. You know, if the Department of Transportation doesn't know how to do the work, you know, the state should take over, get some workers on the line and get the job done. You know, TSA work, it's not complicated. It's truly not. It's a very simple work. You find people with knowledge of computers. A person can detect those items in the computer very easily. X-ray, CTX machine. It's not complicated. The problem is the people of the government, they make the situation complicated to make themselves important. And they are not important. They truly are not. But the problem is the citizens had let the government become, in quote, inflated with authority and importance. And then when there is an understanding of the problems or the facts for what they are, then the importance of the government stands as an obstruction to get the job done. Then you find Secretary then of, you know, Department of Homeland Security talking junk, saying then the work can't be done, and then sequestration pushing for more money from the government. It's always the same junk every time. And then they wallow around amongst themselves trying to find some sort of reason. And then sequestration there, sequestration the other, sequestration the other. It's a similar word for kidnap. You know, they kidnap the money. But then they go around with this new jargon of sequestration. You know, and they make themselves so important. You know what? If they don't know how to do the job, get out of there. They should have then obviously have lots of these agencies privatized a long time ago. Then in any country around the world, when there is a financial problem with the country, the first situation you should have on the agenda is to get rid of the agencies. So then releases the federal government from obligations where they can maintain. But then it, would be similar taking a person from the university by the hand and having on the first grade and teaching ABC. There are certain areas of living, of everyday, citizenship and the such, where some of this jargon from the government is simply stupid. It comes a time where the patience has a limit. Then we find people paying their dues, then they go to the airport, then they are stuck because the government is incompetent. They don't have workers over there making themselves so important, where TSA work is extremely simple. Worked for nearly my third year. If it wasn't then for their own junkies coming up with crazy understandings, crazy ideas, crazy problems, such as writing a report because a person was using then tainted eyewear and making stupid reports and then finding fault with people when a person has more than 90% detection rate, very responsible. My yearly evaluation was 100%. I worked with those people. I think they are crazy because they make themselves so important, and then when the evaluation of the problem comes, they can't act because their importance is above what the problem is showing. If the government doesn't know how to do the job, turn to the state. The mayor, the governor of the state, they have to come up with a crew of people of their own and take care of the problem. And get these jargon people, sequestration, out of there. People don't have time for this crap. They have schedules, they have, reunions, they have to go and fly. And then they get stuck in the midst of these people with no ability to do the work. So, in quote, inflated with importance and authority crap junk. Come on, there is a limit. Then you read the computer, read the paper, it's the same junk. Because there are delays, because sequestration, people don't get paid. No, duh. You should have privatized the damn department a long time ago. But then explain to the child, you can't have as many candies, in one day because the month is very long. If you eat the entire candy in one day, you're not going to have candies for the next day. But try to explain this to the government, they don't understand. They wallow around in the same junkie and they find words and there they are. And not because they don't do the work, because they are abusive. If people were then aware of the abuses of the Department of Homeland Security, boy, they would go nuts. When I used to work for the department, on an island over there of the Pacific, boy, they used to do so many abuses, you would not believe it. Sometimes 4 managers at the same time working in the same day. Extra supervisory in a day where then was around 5,000 people, from a day of a tiny airport where then from 8,000 and 10,000 is the maximum, a very busy day. Then they have special operations during the day. Then they have people hired with those that are leads, with a much more higher pay. Then Saturday or Sunday, you get double pay on Sunday. Barely any people in the airport. There are more, sometimes in certain areas of the airport, there were more blue people wearing uniforms than customers. And then ordering new furniture, ordering new chairs, CEOs chairs, very expensive chairs, for regular TSA workers to do X-ray work. How do you give a CEO's chair to people to do regular work? It's abusive. Those people making those decisions should be in jail. But then, they are so abusive as a whole that they don't understand where the limit is at. And then the public doing their work, doing their job, they go to the airport and they have to face those incompetent people. It's crazy. Our country has gone down so much in quality, so much in respect. And then people, doing their regular work, they have to go through the airport and they have to face these incompetent people because of sequestration. Then you find politicians speaking of gay relationship. What does it have to do with the situation of taxes? Is that anything to do with the, scripture or some sort of a Bible crap? Well, the government has a link with some sort of a religion because they have a place over there in the Ozarks, in the midst of the forest over there with 12 gates. So they have some sort of a Bible crap junk mixed up with it. But then involving people, then going through these airports, and then there is not enough worker to do the job. TSA work is easy to do. You sit in front of the X-ray over there for a half hour, get your eyes very, focused and get the job done. Get the proper pat down taken care of, take care of the customers properly, being polite. It moves on very fast. The problem is, these people, they get inflated with authority crap, they don't do the job. So why then has the government not privatized the damn thing a long time ago? So they are generating their own problems to make themselves more and more important, where then the problems are overtaking them. It's crazy. Paying people sometimes, supervisory people during the Sunday, for instance, a double pay. Barely any people in the airport. There were more people in blue than customers. Kid you not, I saw with my own eyes. There is not an inspector over there asking, why are you having so many people on duty? Do you realize how much this is costing our government? Nobody's saying this anymore in the government. It became a club of the abusers. Licensed pirates. Now people have to go to work. They have to do the industrious part of our country. Then they go to the airport and they get stuck because of these people are incompetent. Quite amazing. The United States of America doesn't know how to take care of their own problems. In a huge crisis ever since the Great War, they don't get rid of the agencies. What are they expect? The Creator coming down from heaven, taking by the hand and taking care of their financial problems? He's not going to do it. We've got 36 months to get our taxation in exact standards. And then people can go through the airports. The director of the airport over there in the Pacific, you know what his job was after coming from the Air Force? He was retired from the Air Force with nice pay, nice benefits. He had no experience of security. He had to be trained. He was flown to DC, he was trained, the whole works paid for, hotel, you name it. You know what his job is? Going around shaking hands. How would you like to have a job to pay $150,000 a year? You have the whole situation paid for, you use government credit card, you drive government car, gasoline paid for, you have your nice cubicle over there, nice air conditioned, get your own computer, you have your own schedule, and then you fly to island speaking with people where you could do this via computer, going around shaking hands. What a nice job. You know, after being retired from the Air Force, then have a nice treat of a job like this, going around shaking hands. Now, you are saying the government is not abusive? If they don't have the funding to do the job, they should get out of there. Let the state take care of it. They can round up some people of their own over there and get the job done. Only do us a favor, get out of the way. You know, if TSA doesn't know how to do the job, or DHS, or whatsoever heck of a company is, or agency, you know, get out of the way. People, they have already problems of their own, and they have to get the job done. They are working for a profit organization. The government is always a burden. They never produce. Maybe this is what the government should hear more in their faces. You are a burden. The government drags the country. And then rather than facilitating for those people doing their work, then they get on the way. Sometimes the government has to have some harsh words on the face, you know, so they can get out of the way and let the state take care of it. Turn to the state. TSA work is extremely simple. The problem is, they are inflating themselves with the authority that they shouldn't have. They are regular workers. If they are not treated as regular workers, then they inflate themselves with authority and the job doesn't get done. No, they walk around as big shots. They don't have even arms. So then, we can only imagine what the Chinese system is going to be like the next 36 months when it comes. It's going to be absolute chaos. Our government, there is no ability to take care of the problems. So many times it was said, privatize, privatize, get rid of the agencies, get rid of these junky agencies, they are only a burden. No, the government isn't concerned because so many people are going to be out of job. No, duh, that's the purpose of get rid of the agencies. Do they understand what's going to become like the retailers then in the future when the Chinese system comes? Oh, the government is concerned of their own workers. What, maybe 500,000 people maybe would be sent out? You know, if you multiply these by 1,000 plus of the retailers going out of trade in the next 36 months, then they should have a bit of concern, should they not? But there they are. Then people are resuming their daily lives. Then they have, you know, go out and they have to fly, and then TSA stands in front because sequestration. And there goes the secretary in public with a lavished face, because sequestration, the delays. So why don't they put a bid on these agencies and get rid of them? It was said so many times. So many times. Every time there is a crisis in a country, the first order of the agenda is get rid of any agency causing burden to the system. Turn them to private, and then private sector takes care of them. They only get their protocol on how to do it, and then costs a fraction of the cost. No, but then the president's a soft to heart, and there's so many people then are going out without jobs. Well, duh. That's why I have to lean up the government. It showed the president is being incompetent. With respect, obviously, he has an important position, but then when the basics they don't get done, then he starts being incompetent. Then what he did to save the jobs of those people then is causing burden rather than furtherance of his decisions. And there they are, with their mouths open as tiny birds waiting for the mother to come with a worm. If the president doesn't know how to have a strong pulse and then the government lean up, he should get out of there. There are times where the crisis is so bad, the government has to be leaned up quickly, and then we have to put in order our taxation system, because then the retailers are on the line. It's not only agencies, non-profit. We're speaking then for-profit places on the line. I'm not sure what kind of world our president is living in, but quite honestly, it's not a reality world. He doesn't understand what's coming in the future. And then obviously, we are not having enough income in the government, and then these secretaries are walking around as birds with open beak. And have you noticed when the tiny bird does not get the worm? The mother goes around and then the bird gets real nasty. He goes after the parent. Boy, it is truly a persecution. It was told many times, get rid of the agencies because there are more problems coming, very much more complicated. But then the president is trying to be a mother to these agencies and then causing himself more trouble than solutions. He's not aware of the Chinese system coming. I'm not sure what kind of world he's living in, but he has not linked yet his ability of Islamic, what kind of a heck of a religion he has. He thinks that he's some sort of a pharaoh or Islamic person of some religion mixed up with Christianity that doesn't exist. And then he gets mixed up only God knows where. And But then he does not do the basic. He does not lean up the government. Then we are in trouble. The secretary is coming around asking for more money. We don't not have enough income coming in the government. There is taxation system. There is the Chinese system coming in the future, indications of it. And he's mothering these non-profit agencies. And not enough income coming. No, with respect, he so far is showing incompetence. He don't come around saying, oh, the industry is speaking up, because it's not. He fired Mr. Chu very late. We should have been producing electricity a long time ago. We have tons of coal. Got mixed up with technicality. Because it's smart grid. No, you have, GEs, they used to produce very nice analog clocks, for counting of electricity. Very reliable, can work for 100 years. But then the president wallows around in these areas where, where are the basics? The country's in trouble. Agencies sucking up the money. He doesn't lean up the government, then becomes a mother of agencies, then doesn't work, then they come around with open beaks, give more money. Where he should have taken place at the first time he got his second term, get rid of those agencies. Yes, people are going to be out of job, but you know what? That's part of leaning up the system. If you don't know how to do the job, get out of there and give it to somebody else that knows how to lean up the system. So then we don't end up with airports and people delaying to go to work because of incompetent government. Going around the world, taking trips, and then going to Egypt and have some sort of a pharaoh hat on top. Come on, we don't have time for this junk. If you like to go around, talk with people, if you like to go, overseas and go into Egypt to pyramids and put those pharaoh hats on the head, it's fine. Do it during the time of our vacation. People are granted vacation so they can relax themselves, but then the government is in crisis. They don't lean up. They are not doing their job. Taxation is very bad. If you go to the government, they are pointing fingers at each other and the job doesn't get done. And then the citizens doing the industrial work have to face up with these unpolite TSA workers at the airports. Unpolite, rude. Why are these people, then, the citizens, paying the salary of these incompetent people? They should have turned the agency private a long time ago. It was experienced in San Francisco. They have a much higher detection rate, much more polite. So quite honestly, not sure what it takes, to get the job done. The first perception is the government doesn't know how to work. You know what? Taxation is the most top priority at the moment. These agencies, they should have got rid of it a long time ago. Speaking of this for what? More than 6 months? A year? If this was done when he first had taken leadership, we would be in a much more relieved area. Now the system is inflated, the system is absolutely in crisis, and then they're expecting more money, obviously. They are not for profit. It lacks leadership. It lacks the basic senses of understanding the government is in trouble and they don't get rid of the agencies. They are stupid. What can we say? If you go any place around the world, in any country, you find then problems with the system. What do? They get rid of the federal agencies. They put a bid, private companies, they come in, they bid for it, they receive a protocol and gone. The system is relieved from obligations. It is basic. But our government is trying to be unique and ended up being stupid. And then we have our chief, the very leader of our country, our president, mothering around these agencies that not produce. He kind of gives a perception that our president wants our country to fail. That's maybe why they built over there the Ozarks, because they want to go underground. It's understandable a person taking a chance, reevaluating the financial system, trying to preserve those agencies. Understandable. It's a very nice act. But then, it's not working. As in any normal country, the first order of the agenda when there is crisis is get rid of the federal agencies without jeopardizing the services. Was it done? No. He tried to preserve those agencies. Fine. Is it working? No. There they are. The secretaries are coming back as tiny birds that did not receive their worm. When the Chinese system comes shortly 36 months, the retailers are going to be out of trade. You know what this means? When people download the Chinese system in their computers, they can get for half of the price, no freight, means you don't have to pay for freight from China. And you get the same product as if you would go to do your shop. You know, shopping around and the such, you go over there, find a product for 10. When the Chinese system comes in your computer, you get it for 5. You don't have even to go out and get it. Talking about problems? Then the government walking around with those big shot stare at the face, saying, oh, we don't have money to do the job. Do they understand what's going to be like the next 36 months? Let's compare with the more than thousands and upon thousands of retailers not having any more trade. Do you understand how many people are going out of jobs? Now, is the president saying then he's trying to maintain the agencies because he's being overly motherly in exchange for 500,000 jobs of the federal government, in exchange for the other 100,000 more time that's going to be in the future? He's being mothering? No, he doesn't understand times and seasons. Very obvious. But true, the government do understand it. 12 gates in the Ozarks, there, do they not? Don't give me then that face of staring at as if you would driving at night, then an animal goes in front of your car. And there are many agencies you can go very easily because of the computerized systems. It can be easily maintained. FAA can be privatized. TSA can be privatized. Most of DHS can be privatized. EPA can be privatized. FDA can be privatized. You know, those agencies can be gone. A nice bid in the system, reliable, private companies can take care of them. Most of it is computerized anyway. Only inspectors around and sending out protocols. What does it take to get this in the hand of the government? Mortally in the president, because he doesn't understand. He's being a nice guy leading his club. You know, the country don't have any more time to regard our government as a club. Because obviously the president does not know how to do his job. He's being a nice guy taking care of his club. You know what? We don't consider our government as a club. A club of friends. If you only would have a clue what's coming in the next 36 months, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of stores, retailers, internet dealers, no job. But then his mind is so far away in his own, only God knows what, maybe, you know, trying to be Pharaoh, trying to be Islamic, Christian, or, you know, only God knows what else. Because so far what makes sense wasn't done. So any other answer then, so far the basics are not done, whatsoever is beyond the basics, then should it be considered? Our federal force should be reduced at least 50%. At least. Yes, it causes trouble. But then they don't know what is coming in the next 36 months. If they think reducing and leaning up the government 50% is trouble, when the time comes, they have to deal with 1,000% of people with no jobs and a system outdated and they can't get taxes from. Speaking of a problem, a huge second Pearl Harbor is coming and the government are oblivious. Then there was the soldier over there on the top of the mountain in front of the radar. There is a larger formation of aircraft coming from the north. Got on the telephone, spoke with the lieutenant. You know, you expect a lieutenant to be smart. Yeah. Those are the aircrafts coming from the mainland. From the north. The Chinese system is coming. The scripture is indicating Already has the mortgage bust. China has the system in their hands. Bank of China, Citigroup, meaning systems of system, joining up together. Then you find a Swift company from China specialized then in internet transactions. Our system does not have instant taxation. Every time there is a problem in the system, because Chinese is trying to hack the system. No, they're not trying to hack the system. They're trying to discourage our government to get rid of the system or systems. You know, it was so out of the ordinary, speaking of this way, because they thought, mortgage bust, that was a piece of junk of deal anyway. Well, why was the Chinese interested in buying then the deal for, other than the system? Oh, but they couldn't link. Oh, then you have the mortgage bust, a bad deal as it was. The Chinese involved and bought it, and they got the system already linked up with Bank of China. Oh, convenient, isn't it? Then the government stare at each other's face and pointing fingers and fighting. And when the time comes, people download on their computers and buy U.S. government, go underground, reptiles. And they think they're going to govern something on the surface, we don't know what, but the Ozarks there is very nice. They got lots of lanes underground, 12 gates, you know, they probably read some sort of a religious material somewhere. They got their own grid, they got crude, they got farming, railroad tracks. You know, you can watch those videos from Governor Ventura. He was a Navy SEAL. He speaks no BS. If you want the truth of it, log on, YouTube, Ozarks. Find Governor Ventura. He drove into the mountain. Thousands of miles of paved, air-conditioned place. And the government comes with their understandings on, because in case of a problem, the problems are showing themselves and people are warning them of the problem so they can take action, and they're turning away from the action, making them guilty. What's most unnerving, and then the industrious people facing airports, and then incompetent government workers not doing their job. So the government is incompetent, impertinent, inflated with authority, and they don't get the job done. Not saying the president is not a nice guy. It's not the point. In terms of leaning off the government, he's weak. He doesn't have the pulse of leaning up the government. And obviously the U.S. government became a club of friends. It's not a government. When the government is serious, when there is a crisis, any kind of federal agency that can be get rid of, they get rid of it. Turn to privacy or private companies, they give a protocol, you know, take care of it. We send often inspectors over there and make sure the job is done properly. And they receive reports at the end of the month. And then any kind of financial abuse during the time of a crisis in the government, it is considered criminal. What they do over there on the islands of the Pacific as far as the TSA is concerned, it is criminal. Nobody is taking the time going over there and inspecting. As much overtime as they can, time and a half or double time. Then there are leads over there, supervisors, gorging themselves with as much time as they want. The government pays for it. Nobody's tracking it. And quite honest, in the government, nobody cares.